We all saw the headlines just days after burying their 11-year-old sons. Both moms are here and meeting for the first time on our stage. Was he having problems with bullies before this year? When did you know something had gone very wrong? They say their boys were bullied to death.
I saw my baby there hanging.
What happened at school the day he killed himself? And a grieving dad speaks out.
We as his parents had no clue.
Then, 13, he says he can't take it anymore. An emergency intervention you need to see. Next.
Hi, welcome to Garden Dialogue. My name is Michael.
I'm David.
And what you just saw was a really, pretty sad segment from the Oprah Winfrey show about two young boys who have been harassed in school. You could call it a form of sexual harassment, in fact. They're both 11 years old. What is, going on? Sexual harassment at 11 years old, I don't really understand it. It's pretty sad, but, I guess we both have some pretty interesting outlooks on this. The name of these boys, it's actually a little hard to do this segment because I'm feeling, a little bit emotional and disrupted, by the clip we just saw. The name of these boys, first one is Carl Joseph Walker Hoover, and the next one is Jaheim Herrera, and they actually both hung themselves because they were being called in school gay, faggot, you act feminine, blah blah blah, kind of stuff like that. So I know, David, that you have a lot to say about it, so why don't you go ahead and begin?
Well, I think it's it's interesting at 11 years old how kids are cruel. That's all there is to it.
Is that all there is to it?
Yeah, they're cruel, but I have a firm belief that kids are products of their parents. I think that television and the media and movies and video games in particular, I think that they're poisoning the minds of young kids today. When I was 11 years old, we didn't think about. I wasn't thinking about sex when I was 11 years old. So I wasn't thinking about someone being a fag or someone being straight.
Yeah, actually, what's really interesting to me is that they're calling these kids fag, this, that, whatever, but they don't even know what they are. They might be or they might not be. You know what I mean? But I don't think they even know anything about that at 11 years old. Or they might. Either way, it's wrong, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But at 11 years old, I have a little brother who's 7.5, and I can't imagine him going through something like that. And thank God he isn't. Anything else that you want to say about that?
Well, I hate the thought of anyone going through it. I think that if anything that's good that's come out of this is that people are finally starting to wake up to this and see that this is going on. Sexual harassment begins at a very it can obviously it can be in age groups as as low as elementary school. Obviously, it's going on. I think it's interesting how kids, especially in this particular instance, are, associating gay and feminine and homo or whatever, labels they were placing on these kids, because that's what kids do. They label everything. They don't know how else to identify it. But they're labeling it as something, as something negative. Mm-hmm. Instead of, I don't know, it just seems interesting that, that their thinking is that, every gay, anything pertaining to being gay is, a bad thing, and it deserves to be, singled out and tormented and poked fun at and tormented.
Well, I understand a lot of what you're saying. I actually don't agree with everything you're saying, though. I think that, kids definitely pick up things as they grow older, but I don't believe that kids are, kind of came out saying kids are cruel, which is fine. I don't believe that. I don't really believe that kids are cruel, and they're certainly not in their nature. I think they're closer to God more than anyone else, but they do pick up a lot of trash, and a lot of that does come from home. And, you know, depending on their capacity, they're either going to ignore it or understand that it's just categorizing things, which is not real and not really making sense, or they're going to just be a product of society, which really just means that they don't think for themselves. And, you know, we're talking about kids right now, but grown-ups do this more than anybody. They're products of society. They don't think for themselves. You know, I respect all religions and things like that, but, you know, you ask a Christian or a Jew or, you know, one of these, you know, fundamentalist ones, you know, you ask them something and they go straight to the book, chapter this, verse 9. No, what do you think? Not from the book. What do you think? What do you feel about it? They're mouthing out things. They're not really talking about what they really feel. So they're products of society, and in a way they're robots and not real people. Now I'll just give a few feelings, you know, my personal feelings on this, you know, A Course in Miracles, you know, does state and does, you know, affirm that, you know, that miracle which you find, you know, you label as a small miracle, or that label which you label as a big miracle. You know, a miracle is a miracle. They're all... A miracle is amazing, okay? And it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as a small miracle, really. It's only a perception. And it says the same thing about terrible things that happen, you know what I mean? Negative situations such as this one. And, you know, this is a really horrific story. It really, really is. And watching the clip, you know, I felt quite sad, and it was really a frequency downer, you know, not to get off topic, but, you know, they, in a college, they did a, I forget which college it was, of course, but they did a study, you know, and they showed kids a war video, and they showed kids some sort of positive video. I wish I remembered what it was, but they did a test on their immune system, and in the war video their immune system actually went down. And that's kind of like what, watching this video, that the Oprah video, that's kind of like what I felt like. It was just really sad. It was a frequency downer. So, you know, obviously I didn't test my immune system, but, you know, you get the idea. So I think that any bad situation is just, yeah, it's a negative situation, but I really believe that these are eternal beings, these kids. So I just really can't think of them as dead, the way human beings normally think of, you know, the way they think of death. I just can't. I have to come at it from the positive perspective. It's just in my make. I have to. So that's, you know, part of who I am. And thank God, you know, I say anyway, thank God for me, for that about me. And so, you know, of course it's a big loss for the mothers and things like that, but I do believe that we're all eternal beings, and I do, again, I'm not gonna, you know, the contract that each and every single one of us have with God, whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, is separate, is a very personal thing, and these children hanging themselves, you know, I could think of various scenarios personally. It could be something that they came here specifically to bring awareness, and, you know, that could have been a contract, or it could have been something, a personal lesson that they had to face. And, you know, I do believe for the most part that suicide is generally kind of a cowardly thing. I'm not calling these kids cowards at all. But for the most part, that's kind of the way I view suicide, and I think generally that when, you know, people do things like that, they're going to find themselves in very similar situations, you know, and before they actually come into the world, their idea, what they have planned out, both their adventures and their traumas, they've planned it out to go ahead and take that lesson and do the best they can with it. And I'm not saying this is how it is for these kids, you know. Whatever their contract with God is, their contract is with God. And you know, we were kind of talking about it, and I kind of feel that, who knows, maybe they came here specifically to bring awareness. And I think that it does need to be brought into awareness and talked about, and these bullies, you know, in school do need to be exposed. And I think that's a very important thing, because I do think that's how things will change, and I do believe things are changing and will change. So that's my positive perspective on that. Anything you want to add to that? We're almost running out of time.
One thing you count on is change. It's inevitable.
Absolutely. Alright, this is Mike and David for Garden Dialogue, and thank you for listening in.